I am continuing my reading, and what I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a little bit as I move along. Right now, I am in the first book of Samuel. This will be chapter 28, but this chapter does have portions of the Joseph Smith translation. What this is, the Joseph Smith translation is an inspired translation or correction of the Bible done by Joseph Smith to restore portions that had been lost over the years. So, let us get into 1 Samuel chapter 28. This is a very interesting chapter. Saul inquires of witch of Endor for revelation. She foretells his death, that of his sons, and the defeat of Israel by the Philistines. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Israel. And Achish said unto David, Know thou assuredly that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men. And David said to Achish, Surely thou shalt know what thy servant can do. And Achish said to David, Therefore will I make thee keeper of mine head forever. So Achish is saying, look, you're in my land, you are welcomed in as a kind of vassal to me. We're going to war, you've got to come. And David says, you know what I can do, and I'll be good for you. And he says, well, you fight well, and you'll be my personal guard, keeper of my head. So it's a nice deal that he's making with David there. Anyways, verse 3. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him, and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits and wizards out of the land, and the Philistines gathered themselves together, and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. So here's the thing, we got to remember that Saul was a good king, and he was a righteous man. And so when he first became king, he had enforced the law of Moses. He had put away the spiritualists, the wizards, and all these people that the law of Moses condemned to death. And he got rid of them all, because he was a righteous man. He has fallen, but he started out a righteous man. So now he faces off with the Philistines, and he's scared. Because remember, his biggest fault from the beginning was that he put trust in his army more than in God. And now he sees the Philistines, and he is scared because he is not sure that his army can face off against them. And he does first try to inquire of the Lord, but he has fallen too far. He has committed murder, and God will no longer talk to him. That's where we're at. 1 second. So, let us continue. Verse 7. Then said Saul unto his servants, Seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servants said unto him, Behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself, and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life, to cause me to die? So Saul disguises himself. She doesn't know who he is, and he asks her to summon up a spirit for him. And she's scared, because she knows what Saul has done. Even at this point, this tells us that Saul did not, this wasn't early on. Saul put down all the wizards, and then when he fell and became, he fell with his jealousies and everything, and he became a wicked man, but he still upholds the law of Moses in the land as a general rule. because she is still scared that if she uses her powers and people know about it, she will be executed according to the law. So Saul is still enforcing the law of Moses at this time. He is still doing that. He himself has fallen, but he is still striving to enforce the law of Moses. Now, in verse 9, we do have a Joseph Smith translation here, and I want to look at this real quick. So, excuse me. It says, and the King James again says, and the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits, and the wizards of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life, to cause me to die? Joseph Smith changes this, says, how he hath cut off those that hath familiar spirits. So that's not a big change. That's just changing the word have to hath. I don't know why the change was made. But then we have down here, Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life, to cause me to die also, who hath not a familiar spirit? She's denying that she has a familiar spirit. Why? You're setting a trap for me. In other words, she's saying, you're coming in here asking me to summon up a familiar spirit to trap me, to kill me, because I don't have one. I like that. She's trying to get out of it. Anyways, let's continue. Verse 10. Oh, we actually have Joseph Smith translations for the next 3 verses too. Actually, it's all the way through every verse through verse 15 is going to have Joseph Smith translation. So, let us read the rest of this, and then we'll go to the Joseph Smith translations for the rest of it. Verse 10, And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, As the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. So Saul is promising her that she's not going to be trapped. You conjure it up and we're going to be good. Don't worry about it. You're not going to die. Now, the Joseph Smith translation says, swear to her, and changes it to swear unto her. Not sure why we needed that change. But then it says, let's see here. As the Lord liveth, then there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Again, not a significant change. Doesn't really change the meaning. Let's continue, though. Verse 11, Then said the woman, Whom shall I bring unto thee? And he said, Bring me up Samuel. In the Joseph Smith translation says, Then said the woman, The words of whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said unto me, Bring up the words of Samuel. Now that is an interesting change. That is a very significant change, because this is telling us that she's not actually bringing up a spirit. Or in other words, she's not bringing up a spirit that Saul will be able to see. She will repeat his words to him. Only his words. Saul does not see the spirit. That's an important point to make. So let us continue here. Verse 12. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spake to Saul, saying, Why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. And the Joseph Smith translation here for verse 12. And when the woman saw the words of Samuel, she cried with a loud voice, and the woman spake to Saul, saying, Why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. So, again, she's not even seeing she's not seeing Samuel. It says the words of Samuel. This is an interesting way of putting it. She's not seeing an actual spirit. She's seeing something, and it has told her who this man is. So now Saul is revealed to her. Now she knows who he is, and now she's really scared. She denied having a familiar spirit, but then she proves she does by conjuring this, and now she knows that's the king who has commanded everybody, all the familiar spirits, be executed. She's scared now. So verse 13, And the king said unto her, Be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. Joseph Smith translation. And the woman said unto Saul, I saw the words of Samuel ascending out of the earth. And she said, I saw Samuel also. So a spirit has appeared to her. She says it's Samuel, but again, Saul is not seeing this. Only she is. Because this is how familiar spirits work. The person who has the spirit, who has the familiar spirit, they see something. You ask them a question, they relay the message. Nobody else sees it. Only the person with the familiar spirit. So she says she's not God's ascending, but the words of Samuel ascending and Samuel himself. So, verse 14. And he said unto her, What form is he of? And she said, An old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel, and he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. Now, again, Joseph Smith translation. What form is he of? And she said, I saw an old man coming up, covered with a mantle. So, again, doesn't really change the meaning, but he does say here, in the King James says, and he stooped with his face to the ground, and it just removes the word with. He stooped his face to the ground and bowed himself. So not a big change in meaning in this verse, just a little bit of grammatical alteration. So now, verse 15. And Samuel said to Saul, Why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and God is departed from me, and answereth me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known unto me what I shall do. Now this is our last Joseph Smith translation here, verse 15. And these are the words of Samuel unto Saul. Why hast thou disquieted me? So again, there is not that Saul said, in the King James said, and Samuel said to Saul. No, this is not Samuel talking to Saul. Samuel, it is the witch. The spirit talks to the witch, and the witch relays the message. The Joseph Smith translation makes this clear that Saul is not seeing this, and it is just the witch relaying this. So let us. I'm already reading too long here, so let us continue on. Verse 16. Then said Samuel, Wherefore then dost thou ask of me, seeing the Lord is departed from thee, and is become thine enemy? And the Lord hath done to him as he spake by me, for the Lord hath rent the kingdom out of thine hand, and given it to thy neighbor, even to David, because thou obeyest not the voice of the Lord, nor executest his fierce wrath upon Amalek. Therefore hath the Lord done this thing unto thee this day. Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with thee into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow shalt thou and thy sons be with me. The Lord also shall deliver the host of Israel into the hand of the Philistines. Then Saul fell straightway all along the earth, and was sore afraid because of the words of Samuel. And there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no bread all the day, nor all the night. And the woman came unto Saul, and saw that he was sore troubled, and said unto him, Behold, thine handmaid hath obeyed thy voice, and I have put my life in my hand, and have hearkened unto thy words, which thou spakest unto me. Now therefore I pray thee, hearken thou also unto the voice of thine handmaid, and let me set a morsel of bread before thee, and eat that thou mayest have strength, when thou goest on thy way. But he refused, and said, I will not eat. But his servants together with the woman compelled him, and he hearkened unto their voice, and he arose from the earth, and sat upon the bed. And the woman had a fat calf in the house, and she hasted and killed it, and took flour and kneaded it, and did bake unleavened bread thereof, and she brought it before Saul and before his servants, and they did eat. Then they rose up and went away that night. So, this is a very interesting chapter. I don't have a lot of time here, but again, Saul does not see the spirit, only the witch does. She relays the words, but the words do sound something like Samuel. So, if it was Samuel, then he came despite it being the witch. I honestly don't think it was Samuel. I think it was an evil spirit. I think it was a devil. I think all familiar spirits are devils. And it told him this because it knew that he was seeking Samuel, and it knew what Samuel would say. And you can tell, the reason I think that this is not Samuel speaking is because it says, tomorrow Thou and thy sons will be with me. But Samuel would be in the spirit paradise. And I don't think Saul would be. He's a murderer. He's not going to paradise. Now, one might argue that his sons might be going to paradise, especially Jonathan. They were good men, but Saul wouldn't be. I think this is a discrepancy in that. Of course, it could just mean you're going to be dead, you're going to be in the spirit world, but they won't be with Samuel. So, it's an interesting story. And it's one of those stories that we're probably not going to truly understand until all things are revealed at the second coming. So, we'll pick it up in the next one.